Okay, this next inheritance pattern is called epistasis. It's also known as the stop gene. And this is because a gene at one locus could alter the phenotypic expression of a gene at a separate locus. And so the classic example of this is hair color in many mammals. Now, in this example, black hair color is dominant to brown hair color. You can see this because of the uppercase and lowercase b. So, knowing this information, to have brown fur, an individual must be homozygous recessive. However, a second gene is going to determine if the pigment will be deposited in the hair. Now, the dominant phenotype is to have this pigment deposition occurring. But if the mammal is homozygous recessive at the locus for the second gene, homozygous recessive, then the coat is white regardless of what the first gene's alleles say. Now, these kinds of problems will be worked like your dihybrid crosses. So, in this example, if we look at these two mice, both heterozygous for each gene, we see that the mouse is black because it has the dominant allele, and it also has the dominant allele for color deposition. Same with this one. If we cross these together, you would expect that the phenotypic ratio would be the same as our regular dihybrid cross, 9:3 to 3:1. But what you need to notice is that wherever we have two recessive alleles for the second gene, there is no color deposition. So now instead of just having two phenotypes, we have three, right? And the ratio of phenotypes is no longer 9:3 to 3:1. It's now 9:3 to 4. So be sure that you can work some of these epistasis problems. And just for fun, this also is how black chocolate and yellow Labrador retrievers are made. So look at this diagram, work one of these problems. There'll be one of these in the extra problem set for you. Okay, now sometimes we have the effect of two or more genes on a single phenotype. It's the opposite of pleiotropy, which was one gene controlling multiple phenotypic effects. In this case, we have multiple genes controlling one phenotypic character, and this is called polygenic inheritance. And the classic example of this might be skin pigmentation in humans. There's at least 3 separate genes, maybe even more, that control the overall pigment deposition, or therefore the skin color of humans. Now, if we wanted to look at this, the skin pigmentation normally forms these gradations. An individual that is heterozygous for each of the 3 genes would be sort of this middle color. The more dominant genes that we see, the darker the skin, and the more recessive genes that we see, the lighter the skin. Now, most of the genetic disorders that we've talked about have been recessive. But now here, let's look at a couple of interesting genetic disorders that are actually dominant. One is achondroplasia, which is a form of dwarfism. About 99.99% of the population is homozygous recessive, but about 1 in 250,000 exhibit the phenotype that has one of these dominant alleles, and would therefore the phenotype would be phenotypically a dwarf. So if the individual is homozygous dominant or heterozygous, then the dwarf phenotype is seen. Another of these is Huntington's disease. Huntington's disease is a degenerative disease of the nervous system. It's usually fatal by age 40. So again, most of the population is homozygous recessive. Huntington's disease, your book uses a figure that this occurs about 1 in every 10,000 in the United States. I think that's a little bit high. But Huntington's disease is very terrible because it's usually fatal by age 40. And since it's a degenerative disease, most of the time individuals have already had children by this time. So we've looked at a lot of things in this chapter, in chapter 12, related to our genes. But I also want to make you aware that our phenotypes, the phenotypes of us as people and other living things, aren't always just because of our genes. The environment also plays a huge role in this. So are we who we are because of our genes, by nature, or are we who we are because of our environment, the nurture? Nature versus nurture, so to speak. In this example, we look at hydrangeas. Same plant, in fact, that can actually change the color of its flowers due to the pH of its soil. Hydrangeas grown in basic soil tend to be red, while hydrangeas of the same genetic variety that are grown in acidic soil tend to be blue. So it's important to ponder nature versus nurture. Even identical twins differ slightly or markedly from one another. And generally, there's a lot of factors, both genetic and environmental, that affect our phenotypes. And we call this multifactorial. So, for this chapter, the most important thing you can do is practice working those genetics problems. I can't emphasize that enough. It's going to take practice. Good luck.